It has always been said that one person's trash is another person's treasure. But what happens when you have a pile of items whose value you don't know? Over the past years, I've collected lots of books, whether carrying on existing series or just books I'm excited to read. I love having a TBR of books to choose from, but my pile of unread books is currently sitting at around 300, whereas I would rather it be a much less overwhelming 50 or so. Whilst I love having options to pick from, too many options inevitably just give me decision paralysis. So, over the course of this video series, I'm going to look at reducing my physical TBR down through a series of games, prompts, and good old-fashioned randomised picks. Thankfully, I'm not much of a mood reader, and challenges are actually a way I have found which really gets me excited to read and keep reading. I hope to discover how many of these unread books become treasures I can add to my collection, or ones I will trash, by which I mean I'll be donating or passing those on to other people who will hopefully find in them a new treasure now it's free from my hoard. Hi friends, welcome back to the Infinite Library, and today we are going to be doing episode 6 of Treasure or Trash. I can't believe we're at 6 episodes already. This is falling in July, and as you can probably tell by the sweater, this is going to be the Summerween episode. But Summerween is a readathon which takes place from the 5th of July for a week, so up until the 11th of July. It's kind of like a community readathon, and the idea is to bring horror and spooky reads and stuff into the summer, which, you know, I love because I love reading horror stuff, so any excuse really. There are prompts for this, but the prompts are very loose and kind of chill, which is great for people that want to take it easy with the readathon. You can also combine prompts, but you know me, and I like a challenge, and I have a lot of books that kind of fit into the criteria on my physical TBR. So to make things just that little bit more interesting, well, not only are we going to be doing one book per prompt, I'm also going to up the stakes. And I'm going to use Becca from Becca at the Books' Spookopalathon board. This is the one from the year before last, I think, just because I'm not really like a Taylor Swift fan, so I wanted the one that didn't have the Taylor Swift-isms on it. Essentially, for those who don't know, this is kind of a Monopoly board. She does a Bookopoly, where she's made a Monopoly board that gives you reading prompts and stuff, and you go around the board, get prompts, that kind of thing. I've used this before, and I found it to be really fun. You got loads of fun stuff on here. So what I'm going to be doing is, for each of the 5 prompts that we have for Summerween, I'm also going to be rolling on the Spookopalathon board to give me an additional prompt just to help me narrow down exactly which book I'm going to read. So I can't bring all the books up here that I have to choose from because there's like 30 and some of them are quite big. But if I bring you down with me, here we go. This right here is the pile of books I have to choose from. I've deliberately tried to not pick any that are too long because this is only a week-long readathon, and I want to be realistic about what I can get through. So I am deliberately going to be picking some shorter reads here, hopefully at least one longer read put into it. But this is a mix of horror and thriller. More horror, to be honest, because I do just tend to read more of that. But I have 30 to pick from, and as fun as it is just to have the one prompt, I think I need a second prompt just to help me with my decision paralysis. And it's going to make it more fun, to be honest, if I get to try and roll on the Spookopalathon board too, which I will most likely also be doing when it comes to October as well. But this is just for this week-long readathon. That is what we're going to be doing in this video. The aim then is going to be reading 5 books. However, if I'm really enjoying it and I want to keep reading in this genre, I may just do a couple of sneaky little Spookopalathon rolls at the end just to try and get that TBR down a little bit. At the end of last episode, we were at this number on the TBR, so let's try and get that down a little bit further. Also, just to mention, 2 of the things that we have on Becca's Spookopalathon form is usually a community shelf prompt and a chance prompt. I'm ignoring these because I don't need to make extra cards just for this like little week-long thing I'm doing. If I land on either of these 2 prompts, I've got a spinner wheel which has all the books that I've got piled up down there in it, and I'm just gonna do the wheel and whatever gets picked is what I read. So that is what we're doing for this video. Let me very briefly go over the actual Spookopolyphon prompts as well, just so you know exactly what there is. I'm also, because in the spirit of the season, going to be doing some additional stuff in this video just to kind of get in the vibe for it. So probably going to watch a horror movie, might do some other things that are Summerweeny, I suppose. I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun, I think. So, the 5 prompts that I'm going to be completing in this video for Summerween specifically are, number 1, read a book in the dark or at night. So this one, pretty easy to be honest. Just make sure you're reading it in the evening or like in the dark somehow, like reading by candlelight, something like that. A very easy prompt. Any book will fulfill that essentially. Ideally, I'm probably going to want to pick a shorter one just because if I can read it in one night, perfect. Then question 2 is read a horror or thriller book. Easy. All the ones down there are horrors and thrillers. Prompt 3 is read a book with a sky on the cover. Now that I have to actually look for because I'm not really sure how many of those have skies on the cover. I'm presuming at least a couple will, but I haven't actually looked through them to check for that, but I'm assuming there'll be a couple. And when you look, I can roll on the board and it will help determine that. Like if I really can't get that prompt to work and I only have like one book with a sky on the cover, I'll just read that one, I guess. Prompt 4 is read a book you've owned for more than 1 year. That is a decent number of those books. Some of them I have bought in the last year, but there's still a decent number in there that I've had for a while. And the final prompt is to read a novella, manga, or listen to a spooky audiobook. I'm aiming more for the manga in this because I do have 1 or 2 manga that I would really like to read very soon that are horror manga as well, but I do have a couple of novellas in there and I'm sure I probably got something in the audiobook range that is spooky that I could use as well. So that is what we're doing. So without further ado, let us start with the first prompt, which is read a book in the dark or at night, and let's roll to see what the additional prompt is going to be. Okay, so here is a Spookopolyphon board. I need to just get a token. We're going to have this little duck as the token for it. So he starts off here on the go, and I have 2 dice, so let's roll and see what the prompt is going to be. Ooh, okay. So 6 and a 1, so that's a 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I can't believe we got a chance square already. We're automatically going to start off with a spinner wheel then. Right, okay, let's go do that then, I guess. Okay, so we've got our list here of like 30 or something books. Let's roll and see what we get. God, this is nervous. What if it gives me something massive to start off with? Oh, we're getting a thriller. Okay. I'm not mad about that because thrillers are usually very quick pace. This is interesting because in the last Treasure or Trash, I read The Drip, which was a thriller horror that I have been wanting to get to for ages, and now we're getting another one in this video. Interesting. Okay, so this is the book that we're going to start with for this video, The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Someone who I've wanted to read from for quite a while, actually. I think I found this in like a charity shop or something. I am actually very interested in this one. I really like isolated locations for thrillers. That automatically really kind of intrigues me. So this one, let me tell you what it's about. It doesn't really have much of a premise, to be honest. This is her second book, I believe. Her debut thriller was The Hunting Party, which it does have there. It's literally only just got these buzzwords at the back. So, each has a secret, each has a motive. Off the windswept Irish coast, guests gather for the wedding of the year. Old friends, past grudges, happy families, hidden jealousies. 13 guests, 1 body. 1 guest won't leave this wedding alive. Why does this remind me of this thing that I watched recently on Netflix, which I think was also based off a book, like One Perfect Couple or something? That's the vibe it's giving me, because that had like a wedding and then someone died and then it became a murder investigation. 13 guests. That is our number of characters for this one. Intrigued. Like, after having read like kind of a weird 3 thrillers in one thing last episode, I'm kind of intrigued to read a more standard thriller And yeah, this one is a bit on the longer side. It's just under 400 pages, but it's a thriller, so I don't think it's going to take me too long to read. So yeah, that is the first book we're reading for this video, I guess. I will start this tonight, once it gets dark, which, given it's summer, is probably not going to be until about 10 p.m, but that's just how it goes, I guess. Okay, thought I would give you my first update regarding the guest list. I did indeed start it last night. I didn't actually read too much of it. I am like this far in. I read about 70 pages or so. My plan is I'm going to read a lot more of this evening because I'm very much in the mood for this today. And there are reading sprints tonight hosted by Gabby at Gabby Reads for Summerween. So that is my plan, is that I'm going to read a lot of this in the sprints tonight. So far it's fine. It's interesting enough. We're following a lot of different perspectives of these different people who are all on the island prior to the wedding happening. It's very typical for a lot of other thrillers I've read where everyone is kind of not a great person and there's all these secrets and suspicions that everyone has for one another, so we're already like getting a whole load of motives. Not that I know who's going to die yet. I'm assuming someone is going to die. Yeah, this is one body, so someone is going to die, but I have no clue who it's going to be yet. Part of me thinks it might be the bride or maybe even the groom, because we've had no perspectives from him yet, but everyone is setting themselves up to be involved in some way is kind of how it's feeling. And yeah, it's reading easy enough. I would say I'm enjoying it, but yeah, I'm not necessarily emotionally connected to any of the characters, which is kind of how I feel about a lot of these thrillers. They're kind of just fun whilst I'm in them, and I don't really connect to the characters because most of the characters are kind of terrible. And that is very much how this feels at the moment. I say we're having a lot of different perspectives. So far we've had Aoife, who is the wedding planner who actually lives on this remote island in the first place. We've had Hannah, who is considered the plus one, who is essentially the bride's best friend is her husband, so she doesn't really seem to know many of the people, to be honest, at this wedding. She's just there as a plus one, and there's this whole thing with that her husband and the bride have this really close friendship, which is already people are speculating that they used to be together. Also, we have the bride Jules, who I don't like at all, to be honest. Basically everyone is portraying her as being very selfish, and this whole thing with her husband as well is that they've not known each other that long, but she's just like obsessed with him. No clue what he thinks because we've not had his perspective, and we've not really heard very much from him, to be honest, even though we do also have perspective from the best man, who is this guy called Jono, who is kind of seen as a bit of a fuck up, to be honest, and he really obviously likes the groom, but I feel like something is going on there as well, and they have this like old camaraderie of a bunch of the other guys there who are like all the ushers essentially, and they all kind of went to the same high school together, it seemed like, but it sounds like from what they're saying something went down at this high school which bonded them all together. They call themselves the survivors, and someone died at the school, so I feel like definitely something is going to go on with that. So everyone is like bringing stuff to the table here, which is interesting. Like, I'm not bored of any of them. Then we have Olivia, who is the bridesmaid, who is the bride's half sister, and the bride is kind of alternating between loving her and also being really jealous of her because she's young and pretty and gorgeous, and she is kind of getting over a breakup and also doesn't really seem to like Jules that much. She's got her own stuff going on as well. I also really dislike that like basically everyone who's on the island is like in their 30s apart from her, and she is 19, and like all the men seem to just kind of be noticing her and how attractive she is, which is really gross, so I could have done without that. But yeah, we're just setting up at the moment. Nothing has really happened. But yeah, we're just putting all the players on the board, and as of yet, I could not call who it is that's going to die. It's interesting so far. As I say, I'm not far enough in yet to have formed any real opinions as to the mystery. We're just getting to know people. It's interesting. Can't say I really like any of the characters, to be honest, but that is kind of standard for a thriller for me. Stuff is about to go down. Hello, I am here with the next update. I finished the guest list last night. I basically stayed for all of Gabby's Sunday sprint, and that was exactly the right amount of time for me to finish this book. Overall, I did quite enjoy this. It had me gripped all the way through. I'm giving it a 3.75, I think. This was gonna be a 3.5. I basically predicted every single twist that happened, every reveal in this book way before we actually got it revealed to us. Apart from the last one, which was to do with who the murderer was and their specific motive. So I'm glad there was at least one surprise in this book for me. I did have a suspicion of who was going to get killed. I was in between like 3 people and I was right with one of them. Also the whole thing where it's like 13 guests. There's only 13 guests for one of the nights. The day of the wedding there was like 150. So technically there could have been a whole lot more suspects on this, but I think they just wanted to make sure it was narrowed down for the sake of us trying to figure it out. But yeah, this was fun. It definitely reminded me of The Inheritance a little bit because of the whole remote island thing and everyone having secrets. Although I feel like maybe I liked the characters more in The Inheritance. I can definitely see this as a movie. I think it is being optioned to make a movie of at some point in the future. I would maybe watch it. I feel like it would be kind of fun. Also, I've gotta say, the island, not the perfect wedding venue. The amount of people that I feel like almost died just by walking around the damn island. The damn island is a death trap on its own. Like, someone could have died from that so easily. Someone did almost die from that just because the whole place is really not safe for like 150 drunk people to just be traipsing around. But there we go. This was fun. I'm not going to keep it. Like most thrillers, it's unfortunately quite forgettable. I did quite like some of the characters by the end of it. I feel like my favourite character was Hannah, who was the +1. I think she was the most relatable. And we did get a little more from all the characters. Like Jules, we did get to see a little bit more from Jules, which I am glad for. I did like the ending for this. But yeah, overall, it was a fun time. I'm not ever going to reread this though, so it is going to be one that goes to a trash. But yeah, a good time. I do realise I actually have another book by Lucy Foley as well. I totally forgot I have The Midnight Feast because I found this in like a charity shop or something, which again is like another party kind of thing with stuff happening. This one is set in Dorset. Guests gathering from the opening weekend at the Manor, a beautiful new countryside retreat. Very cool cover, by the way. I probably will read this one too because I thought it was fine. It was gripping. I didn't hate the characters. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to read any more about them than we got in this book, but they were fine. I'm glad there was at least a little bit more to them than just the stereotype of kind of how they were first presented. And I did really like the friendship between Hannah and Olivia, who was the bridesmaid. I really liked that, and that they ended up kind of confiding in one another. But yeah, this was just fine. A good time. That's all I had to say about it, really. It was a good time. Most thrillers are kind of like this for me. I either enjoy them or I hate them because I hate all the characters and they're boring and I predicted everything, but I didn't predict everything in this one, thankfully. I just predicted 90% of all the twists. So, you all may have realised this already, but the readathon starts on Saturday in the daytime, and I just picked my first book, which can only be read at night, so I feel like I should probably pick another book that I can read in the daytime as well. Otherwise, I'm just going to be waiting until the night, and that is wasted time. So I'm going to go with the hardest prompt, which is number 3, which is to read a book with a sky on the cover. I've gone through all my pile, and these books all have a sky on the cover. In one way or another, I'm stretching it a little bit for some of them, but we have The Devouring Grey by Christine Lynn Herman. This is I think this is like a YA mystery thriller with a bit of supernatural stuff in it. We have Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. There is a sky. A historical gothic novel. We have The Child of Hameln by Max Turner. This is an indie published fairy tale retelling of the children of Hamelin, which is also a horror. We have This Pact Not Ours by Zachary Sergi. This is like a summer focused YA, I want to say horror a little bit. This is very the summer vibes, to be honest, so I'll be very happy to read this one. We have The Hotel by Daisy Johnson. There is in fact two skies on this cover, one through the window, one through the door. I'm not really sure what this one is about. I think she tends to write like weird, futurish, dystopia, folklore horror set in the Fens, generally is what she does. I read Sisters by her and really liked it. And then we have Buried in a Good Book by Tamara Berry. I mean, there's kind of sky here. This is a cozy mystery. So those are the options. Let's go roll on the Spookopoly board to see what the additional prompt is going to be to help me choose which of these I'm going to read. Okay, so I got the future prompt, which means I have to read a book which is set in the future, so a bit of a sci-fi element. I'm not sure if any of these I have that. These three, I know for sure out of the running. This is historical, so definitely not. This is set in contemporary, and I'm pretty sure The Devouring Grey is also set in contemporary. These three, however, I don't know. I'm going to have to look into them because they could possibly be set. This could be historical. I need to... Oh, wait, I've just opened it to a date which is 1981. Okay. Is it all set in the 80s, 961? Or do we go into the future? Let's just casually skim without trying to spoil myself. Oh, this might all be set in the 80s, which makes it historical. Yeah, no, it's historical. 80s, so this one cannot work. I have hope for The Hotel. So I'm going to leave that till last and check This Pact Not Ours. It doesn't really specify anything. It looks contemporary, judging by the clothing of the people. Came out in 2023. Doesn't specify anything. But I feel like it's a stretch to say this could be in the future, so I think this is contemporary. It's all relying on The Hotel. If this isn't going to work, I'm going to have to roll a different prompt. So this is about a mysterious hotel which looms over the Fens, built on cursed land. On entering the hotel, different people react in different ways. It says contemporary horror on it. So this is like kind of mini short stories. And I feel like, yeah, I think this is contemporary. I don't think I can get away with this. So I'm going to have to roll again and try and get another prompt that will work for one of these books. Okay, so the future was a bust. Let's roll again and see if we can get something else. Right, that's a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh! Ghost face. Okay, let's have a look what that prompt means. Okay, I checked, and ghost face is actually to read a book with a sound in the title. And I don't think any of those do. So we're going to have to roll again. We're just going to keep rolling until we find a prompt that will let me read one of these books. Okay, that's a 3. 1, 2, 3. Community shelf. That means it's the spinner wheel, which makes life a lot easier for me because I'm just going to have to put one of these books into the spinner wheel. And whichever one comes up is the one I'm going to read, I guess. Okay, I can't believe we're doing another spinner wheel. This is just apparently how the board is working this time. But I put the books in. Let's see. Oh, I also forgot Murder Road technically has a scout in it as well. I forgot to include that one. But I'm kind of hoping for one of the shorter ones, to be honest. Either The Hotel or Child of Hameln, just because it means I'll get through it quite quick, because I want to read as much as I can in this video. So, let's see what the spinner wheel decides for me. Watch it pick Rebecca, which is the longest book. Okay, cool. It's not going to be... Oh! Yes! Oh, thank God. The Hotel. Okay, not gonna lie. This is the one I've been looking at on my shelf and have been wanting to read the most recently. Of these 7 books, it's the one I'm honestly the most excited for. It's also short. So yeah, I'm very happy about that. Not mad in the slightest to be reading The Hotel by Daisy Johnson. So it's the first day of Summerween, and compared to last video where it was a heat wave, it is the greyest day ever, and it's probably gonna rain. So I mean, it's a vibe for Summerween, I guess. It is a good day to be sat inside reading, I suppose. Oh hey, magpie. Smells like, hi. You good? Okay. Hello, I am here with an update, and I didn't really have any mid-updates to do because I literally sat down and read this whole book in one sitting. It took me like an hour. It really was so short. And there's a lot of like gaps as well, because every time we have a new story, we kind of just have like a page break where it then introduces the next story. And I'm really sad because I wanted to love this one so much. It just didn't really work for me. I've read 2 books by Daisy Johnson before, and I feel like I will always try her work. I think she has such interesting ideas, and she really does tap into that eeriness of the locale she always writes for, which is the Fens. But I felt very similarly about this as I felt about her other short story collection, which I read initially, which I think is called Fen. That was her first book, which was a short story collection. And I've read her novel, which is Sisters, and I loved Sisters. That was a 5-star read for me. And so I was really hoping I would kind of have a similar experience with this one, but unfortunately, it just didn't leave much of an impression on me. This was originally done via radio on, I think it was like Channel 4. She does talk about it. Yeah, Radio 4. It was originally kind of put onto these stories, and I can really see how that would work, particularly with different narrators, and how it would just be this like really odd, strange experience to listen to. And I'm not sure it really worked as a book, unfortunately. So basically what the book is about is the hotel. The hotel is this essentially a haunted location. It wasn't always a hotel, it was a farmhouse originally, which had a woman in it who people thought was a witch and who got drowned in the pond, and then they built a hotel over the grounds, and then the hotel like is there for quite a long time before it also is eventually burned down. And it's just about the experiences of different people at the hotel. It's almost a case of them being haunted by the hotel. All the people themselves are haunted and are being drawn to the hotel for whatever reason. There's this kind of feeling of claustrophobia of you staying in the hotel, and no matter if you actually don't stay there for very long, you never truly leave. And there is definitely this feeling of people being trapped by the hotel. There are certain people whose stories end and they never leave the hotel. This actually really kind of gave me similar vibes, just because it is very obvious, but to the American Horror Story Season Hotel, which is actually my favourite American Horror Story season. But it didn't really get as like scary and explicit as that. It's a lot more about like vibes and things being unseen. I think the favourite stories I liked from this, I rate every single story mostly a 3 with a couple of 4s scattered in, and I think the best stories were the ones which had a link between them, so you sort of like see other people passing through and then you hear about their stories. But the ones I liked the most were when you got to have one story and then you kind of got to revisit it later on, and that I liked, but from a different perspective. The one that I think I liked the best actually was a little girl who was staying in the hotel with her mother and her father, I assume, and it was just very realistic in how it showed this like child being at a hotel and like how weird an experience it is being in the alien not home location where everyone has a different routine. And she ends up making friends with this girl who may or may not be there, and then the girl is like bricked up into a wall at the end, and then we come back later on and the girl is now older and she kind of remembers it a little bit. So that one I liked. The other one I really liked was about this woman who going to a hen party there, and the bride was an old friend of hers from when she was little, and she loved her, but they like fallen out, and then she kind of keeps meeting her in the bar and they have this like weird experience together, and then they leave the hotel, but it's very obvious that what she is leaving the hotel with is not actually her real friend or the bride. It is something the hotel has basically kind of gifted to her, and then we see it from the perspective of the creature that the hotel gave to her in a later chapter. And I thought those were really interesting. Those were really cool ideas. I think for me is that a lot of the stories had good concepts and ideas, and I just wanted them to be more fleshed out than what we got. Each of the stories is very quick, and I think what worked with Sisters for me is it had that really good concept, and then it did spread it out over a whole novel, and that worked for me. And I feel like basically every single one of these stories could have been fleshed out into a whole book, and I think I would have preferred that. I just never really connected enough to the book and what it was trying to do. Had cool visuals, eerie impressions, some gorgeous writing at times, but overall just not one that really left an impression on me, which I'm kind of sad about. So yeah, I think I'm giving this one a 3-star overall. It has to be a low 3. A few of these may stick with me, but I don't really think it's going to be a book that really stays with me, unfortunately. I also just noticed there is a cat just hanging out here in the back. I don't think there is a single cat in the whole book, but nice that that's there. I do really love the cover for this. I will say, like, I love how we have this ghost, like, going through into a door. This is presumably the mysterious room 63, which has the red door, which is kind of, like, considered the most haunted room in the whole hotel. But yeah, I did like all the different people that we got. Like, we weren't just seeing guests, we were seeing, like, a night manager. We were seeing people who worked there as like the cleaning staff, that kind of thing. So I did enjoy all the different perspectives. We also got quite a few queer perspectives, which I really like. I liked that being in there. Overall, just not a book that is really going to stick with me. So I am probably not going to keep a hold of this one. I will probably pass it on, I think. So this does mean it's the first book finished for the blog. It's still the first day of Summerween. It's not dark yet, so I cannot start the guest list. So we're going to roll to pick what our next book is going to be. So for prompt 3, that is a really easy prompt. All I have to do is read a horror or a thriller. Ideally, I'm looking for a horror, I think, because this didn't really quite cut it, and I'm reading a thriller later. So ideally, I want to pick a horror. But let's go roll on the Speakopoly board to see what additional prompts we're getting to help me pick exactly which horror I'm going to read. Okay, so last time we were on community shelf, so I used the spinner wheel. Hopefully I don't get another spinner wheel. I would like to actually get a proper prompt this time. So let's roll and see what we get. 2 4s, that's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ooh! Ghost tour. I cannot remember what ghost tour means. Let's go find out. Okay, so looking at this is actually one of the autumnal Halloween activities, which is a ghost tour, which makes sense. So I have to read a book with a historical element. This does not have to be historical fiction. It could be a book inspired by history, but is not actually set in the past. Okay, let's see what we got, I guess. Okay, I have picked my book, and I'm actually really excited to read this one. I've wanted to check this one out for quite a while, and for some reason, I just keep forgetting I have it. But I've gone with Slewfoot by Brom. This was getting quite a bit of hype last year. I honestly don't really know a whole lot about it. I think it is actually historical, but that wasn't why I picked it. I picked it because the very first line of the blurb just really spoke to me. And it said, an ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. Definitely that gives me the historical element. Set in a colonial New England, Slewfoot is a tale of magic and mystery, of triumph and terror from acclaimed author and artist Brom. So I think there are like pictures in this throughout because of they're also like an artist. Yeah, ancient spirit. The wild folk call him father, slayer, protector. The colonists call him Slewfoot, demon, devil. To Abifa, a recently widowed outcast, alone and vulnerable in her pious village, he is the only one who she can turn to for help. Together, they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. So yeah, described as a terrifying tale of bewitchery, featuring more than 24 of Brahms' haunting paintings, fully immersing readers in this wild and unforgiving world. I'm guessing that is Mr. Slewfoot right there. It's an iconic cover. I really love it. It's such a cool design. It's also like a really weirdly shaped book. It's like kind of wide. It's not massively long either, so I feel like I can definitely get through this one, but I wanted something that just wasn't like something really short again. Child of Hamel I could have gone for because as we saw it's set in the 80s. But I really wanted something that I could get my teeth into a little bit more and was a little bit longer and also hopefully a very different tone from the contemporary thriller that I'll be starting tonight, which I think this one is. So yeah, I will start this, I guess, and let you know how it's going. Hello, it's a few hours later. I have indeed started Slewfoot. I'm about 80 or so pages in at the moment. I've just hit chapter 4. They're pretty long chapters, and I'm not really sure how I'm feeling about this one so far. I'm not really vibing at the moment. I am intrigued with what is happening, but I'm not really like emotionally invested. We're mostly following who I presume is this person here, this main character called Abifa, who is fairly new. I say new, I think she's been there for 2 years, but it feels like she's kind of new to this Puritan community. She went over from London. Her father essentially sold her off to be a bride to one of the men at this New World community, which is a very puritanical community, which is set in Connecticut at a place called Sutton, probably a real place, I'm guessing. But she got like reasonably lucky, I suppose, because the man that she got sent to marry is actually a pretty sweet guy and is not like as puritanical, aggressively religious as some of the other people. Like he is, but he's also fairly relaxed with her, and she's like kind of known as being this very like passionate spitfire, which is obviously not what is done in the Puritan community. And she constantly has this threat of her being like placed in the stocks and punished by the people in the community, which hasn't happened yet. Like she's managing to get away with it somehow. Sometimes, girl, I'm just like, can you not speak? Like I get it, I appreciate her, but when it's a case of you are going to be tortured, I don't know if I could be as like outspoken as she's being. But yeah, some stuff has happened. She's now on her own at a farm, and this creature was a shadow, some kind of demon of sorts, like a nature demon, has awoken in the woods. He or they kind of seem very confused at the moment. I'm not really sure what their goal is. They are after blood, but they also just seem to be being pushed that way by these 3 spirits of nature who I can't really take seriously, because one is like just a possum, then there's a raven, and then there's just this fish that's just like floating around without being in the water. So I can't really take those guys very seriously, to be honest, but they're kind of persuading this creature. I don't know if this is Slewfoot. They've mentioned a Slewfoot, but I don't know if that is what this creature is. They're just kind of calling him like the demon or whatever. And they're basically persuading him to essentially take revenge on the people around them, because they are supposed to be protecting this tree which gives them magic, like wild magic, I suppose, and their tree was kind of cut down but it's starting to regrow again. They are very slowly getting memories back of a time when they were once alive, which is mostly just fire and killing people, I assume, but they just seem very kind of confused and not really sure what they want to do, or not even sure who they are at the moment. I can assume at this point that these 2 cast-off creatures are going to form a connection together, and maybe that was going to help her against the community. But right now, I'm just not really sure where the story is going. Like, whether this is going in, this creature is going to kill everyone, whether they're going to team up and take revenge on everyone. She's already being considered to be a witch, even though she's mostly just kind of like doing charms and little fortune telling, but her mother was definitely a witch, and she has basically been found some like old witchcraft tools which she might be using because she is in a predicament right now. But yeah, I just don't really know where it's going. At the moment, I am intrigued, but I'm also not like desperate to carry on reading. I might take a break from this actually for a little bit. It is getting towards night. So I think I may just chill for a bit, cook dinner. I'm going to watch Scream tonight, the latest Scream, which I think is Scream 6. I've been trying to catch up in time for whenever the next film finally comes up, and finally this is the last one, and I'm really excited to watch it. I have pretty much enjoyed them all, although some movies are definitely better than others, but I have actually enjoyed the newer movies, which I was not expecting to. So yeah, I think that's my plan for tonight. I might put this aside for the rest of the day and start the guest list because I could use a change of pace. Something about the writing in this as well. It feels a little bit long-winded. It takes a while for things to happen. It feels like, I don't know if it's because it's just more in the old style or what, but I could use something a little bit more quick paced, I think. So yeah, I think I'm going to come back to this one tomorrow, and I'll see when I get further in how I'm feeling about it, because I am intrigued, but I'm not necessarily like having a great time with it. I'm just trying to work out what it's doing right now, I suppose. So an update on Slewfoot. I am now past the halfway point, and to be honest, I am finding this a struggle to read. I'm just not really into it, and I am intrigued as to where it's going. Definitely, as I kind of suspected, Abifa is definitely having this sort of partnership with this spirit guy or whatever he is, like some demon. He doesn't seem to remember what he is, and the forest people are trying to persuade him that he is here to be a slayer and to kill all the people, but he is actually beginning to see himself more as like a pagan god and working with Abifa to help her with her troubles and with her farm. And I like that element of it, and I like that they are kind of forming this weird little friendship, but I'm still not really loving this story, unfortunately. Very much, again, feels like all the people in the village, apart from, like, the Reverend and his wife, who are, like, the only people, really, that are nice to her. And the Reverend's wife, in particular, is the only person that seems to believe in Abifa and is proud of her for trying to do things on her own without husband. But everyone else in the village just hates her. There's this constant, kind of ridiculous guy called Wallace, who is her brother-in-law, who is just trying to just do all these dastardly plans to destroy her, essentially, and it's a little bit silly. Probably very realistic, to be honest, for the time period. I get the sense. And part of me just feels like this would work better as a film, because the pacing is just very slow, it feels like, with this. Even though months have passed, at this point in time, we started off in spring and now we're actually in September, and she has actually lost track of time of what's happening, and she hasn't even realised that months, weeks, whatever, have passed. I'm not really vibing, I've got to say. I'm at chapter 8 now, and I am really tempted to DNF this, not gonna lie, but I think I want to see where it's going. I don't think this is going to be one I'm going to keep afterwards, but I am still intrigued enough, even though I'm finding it a bit of a trial to read, to see where it's going, because I am intrigued about what is going to happen to the two of them. I care nothing about the village, not going to lie, but this is very much gearing up to her kind of becoming a witch, is how it feels like now. Her and the demon are kind of working together. She's called him a name, actually. I'll call him that. She's called him Samson, which is a biblical name. Also the name of the goat who dies at the very beginning. And she's treating him like he's a god, and they are kind of working magic together, where she gives him offerings and he is able to perform magic to help her. And he's kind of finding a meaning in this. It feels like, where he's like, I don't have to be the slayer. I can be your god. I can heal this land, that kind of thing. but it feels like it's all gonna fall apart a little bit because he is still haunted by whatever it was that happened, and there's this constant image of like spiders like coming into his mind and wearing him down, I suppose, and he is like constantly seeking into despondence. So I don't know what's happening with it, to be honest, but I am intrigued where it's going. I am sad that this just hasn't really worked for me. I can see how it would work for other people, but for me it's just, I don't know, I just don't care enough about the main character. And although I like the weird friendship that's happening, there's not really a lot else in this that is really drawing me in, unfortunately. I'm past the halfway point now. I'm going to try and read a bit more. I might try and finish this today just because I kind of want it to be done already. Also, I just realised this is the very first time that I realised that she's flying in front of a moon. I've been looking at this cover for so often, and for some reason I've always thought she's just like sitting on a log or something, and I'm like, no, she's on a broomstick. That's literally a moon behind her. She's just flying in front of the moon. So yeah, I'm kind of dumb, I guess, to have figured that out as late as I did. Right, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try and finish this, I think. Try and not DNF it. I really do want to at least finish this one. But yeah, I'm not loving it, unfortunately. I don't think Brom is for me. Hello, so I finished Slewfoot. This was definitely a trial to get through. I will say the ending did actually get kind of good in a very good for her sort of way, but ultimately, yeah, I didn't really care for this, unfortunately. I like the ideas it had, and I did like weird internal conflicts that the demon had throughout this, because he couldn't remember who he was and people were telling him he was a devil, and he didn't seem to feel that was the truth. He felt there were like truths being hidden from him, and that did get revealed, thankfully, about what he really was. But overall, I just feel the execution on this one left a little bit to be desired. It was very slow for quite a lot of the book, which I wouldn't usually mind too much, but I just wasn't invested enough in the characters to care really with being so slow. And it did this whole big build, and then it was just like a whole witch hunt thing happened, which I wasn't crazy on. And then we got the good for her moment, which I was very happy about, but too little too late, I feel like. So yeah, I think I'm giving this a low 3 again as well, and I'm not going to be keeping this one. I don't think Brom is an author for me, unfortunately. Definitely a guy writing a female protagonist doesn't always work very well, and I think this is definitely one of those cases. It was okay. I'm glad I finally got to it because it's been on my shelf for quite a while, but wasn't for me. Though this does mean I can pick the next book for this readathon. I'm feeling something a little bit quicker, I think, because that was so slow paced. So I think I'm actually gonna go with the final prompt next, which is to read either a manga, novella, or listen to a spooky audiobook. I have picked out all my mangas and novellas that I have that are kind of horror. I don't have too many of them really, but I'm hoping when I roll on the Spookopoly board, I will roll something that will let me pick one of these 4. So yeah, let's do that and see what we're reading next, I guess. Okay, so we're here on Ghost Tour. Let's roll and see where we're going next. Ooh, double 6s. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Oh no! That literally can't work for this prompt unless I do a spooky audiobook, and I don't think I've got any, so we're gonna roll again. Okay, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there we go. That fits. Under 300, small book. I guess I'm just gonna pick one of these 4 that I want to read then. Okay, I think the board was just giving me a freebie there, to be honest, and was just saying pick whichever of these you want to read. I have 2 manga here, Goodnight Airy and volume 5, which is the latest volume with The Summer Hikaru Died. I have 2 novellas, one which is The Child of Hamel, and then another one I picked up which is called The Only Safe Place Left Is the Dark. I'm gonna go with the manga, I think. and I purposely was putting this aside for Summerween because this is currently my favourite manga series. I absolutely love this. You probably heard me talking about this in other videos. Basically, this is a queer horror slice of life series, and basically it is about these two boys, one called Yoshiki, one called Hikaru. Hikaru goes up into the mountains during the summer, and when he comes back from the mountains, he is not Hikaru anymore. Something has taken his body and still has his memories and just pretending to be Hikaru, and his friend figures this out very quickly, and there are weird spooky goings on in the village itself, but it's also a lot about the emotional dynamics between the two of them, and Yoshiki, who is our main character here, struggling with this grief of having lost his best friend and learning who this new creature is and kind of feeling for him. Happy to carry this one on. The anime has actually just started on Netflix. I watched the first episode yesterday, so I'm very in the mood for this. I have very mixed feelings about the first episode of the anime, I would say. Can't remember exactly what happened in the first volume, but I feel like they put in some things that happened a bit later on in the series, which I didn't think they needed to do just yet. And some of the audio was a choice, I feel like. It felt like they were just trying to do lots of like weird, scary, unsettling things to build the atmosphere, and I don't really think the series needs that, to be honest. I feel like it's got its own eerie, unsettling atmosphere without having to just add a whole bunch of random stuff alongside, but that's just my interpretation of it. I did look online and people thought it was really good, so it's just me apparently. It didn't work for maybe. Volume 5, this is the latest one out. Happy to get up to date with the series finally. I can't believe this readathon is supposed to take a whole week and I'm already 3 books down of the 5, so I guess I'm not taking the whole week to do this. But I have read the 5th volume, The Summer Hikaru Died. Still really love this series. The ending cliffhanger for this one though, oh my gosh, like that turned everything on its head a little bit. I can't wait for the next volume to come out, and it's not coming out until October, so I may have to pre-order it because I need to read it like ASAP as soon as it comes out. But yeah, still really love this series a lot. Things are definitely getting more interesting. Hikaru is sort of becoming more aware of the effect that his disappearance essentially is having on the people around him a little bit more. He kind of made a decision of what he thinks is the best thing to do going forward because he doesn't want to hurt people, and he's promised Yoshiki he's not going to hurt people. And then there was the thing revealed at the very end, so that was interesting. And there was also a lot in this manga, interestingly, about both Yoshiki and Hikaru's fathers and the curse that is on Hikaru's family of sorts. So that was interesting to see a little bit more about them, to see how different Yoshiki's father is from the rest of the family. He's really like isolated and separate from the family. It kind of explains a little bit about how Yoshiki is, because he definitely has certain tendencies like that too. But yeah, really good series. I'm giving this a high 4. I just want to know more, basically. I'm so excited to carry this series on, as I always am. I've loved every single volume from this series, all the way from volume 1 to the most latest, volume 5. I did actually go and quickly skim through volume 1 again because I wanted to see how much of it they had adapted into the anime episode, and there was some stuff that I didn't think happened in the first volume and did, but a certain thing that I was like, I'm sure this didn't happen until at least volume 2 or volume 3 definitely did not happen in this first volume. So there was a certain character introduction which I was really surprised to see, because it reveals almost as well straight away exactly who he is and what he does in that first episode, and we don't even get introduced to this guy until like another volume or 2. Like, it's very much more about getting to know this main core cast before we start introducing the side characters more so. So I'm not really sure why the anime is choosing to bring him in already. I'm not taking that, I guess, but I guess I'll just keep watching it and see how I go. But yeah, another book ready for this video. Definitely going to be a treasure, thankfully. Definitely keeping this one. I still love this series. It's my favourite manga series right now, basically, next to Witch Hat Atelier. Right, here we go. let's pick the final book for this video. This is for the final prompt, which is to read a book that I've had on my TBR for over a year. So I've gone through my stack and I've basically pulled out everything that I've had for that time. It's a big stack. Let me go get it. So this is what we have to pick from. Ugh. There we go. This stack here is what we have to pick from. I'm not going to go through them all, but as you can see, there's quite a lot. I have a lot of the Evernight books on here, and just a really big variety of various horror, to be honest, is what I have here. We got some classic horror, we got some YA horror, we've got Stephen Graham Jones, who I've wanted to read for a while and never got to. A whole bunch of stuff to pick from. I definitely need help from the Spookopoly board to narrow that down to one choice. So without further ado, let us do the final Spookopoly roll for this video to pick what I'm going to be reading for my final book for Summerween. Okay, here we go with the final roll. We were on a small book, which of course was basically just the prompt we had anyway. But let's hope for a really interesting one for the last roll. Oh my god, double six again. Okay. Ooh. Bonfire. I can't remember what that means, so let me go and have a look at the guide. Okay, so I checked, and Bonfire actually stands for a book that you are considering already unhauling, or a book that you're not really sure you're going to like. Which is interesting. But not what I expected for this last one. I think I do know what I'm going to pick actually for this. I think looking at what I've got here, most of these are books I'm actually very interested in. But there are two books in particular that I'm not sure are going to work for me. One is The Taking of Jake Livingston. This is a YA horror and it's about possession. It's queer as well, I believe, but also like the whole possession aspect makes me a little bit squeaky. Like, I don't know if this is going to go into an SA territory, and that worries me. Also, I read some like YA middle grade horror and haven't been massively crazy on it, so this is definitely an option. But I think the other book, which is the one I think I'm going to pick for this, is a better choice because I've heard very mixed things about it from people. And it's Murder Road by Simone St. James. So I know this is an established author. This is actually an Evernight book, as you can tell, but with it having a really cool design. I do really like the design for this one. This one is from April 2024, so definitely over a year old. And I believe it is kind of a supernatural story, but perhaps also maybe just more of a mystery thriller. And I've heard mixed things because I know some people that have read this have actually hated it. Gavin reads it all, I know, infamously hates this book. A friend of mine read it and she actually quite liked it. And I have a feeling that I could actually like this one, but I really just don't know. If this goes more down a mystery thriller territory, then I'm probably not going to be that bothered about it, to be honest. This definitely does give the summer vibes, I think, though. Like, they're wearing summer clothing. But yeah, let me tell you about what this actually is. So, April and Eddie have taken a wrong turn, and now they're on a long dark road late at night when they see a woman up ahead, clearly in trouble. This is basically the first episode of Supernatural. So I want to see if that is actually a thing or not. They stop and pick her up. It's only once she's in the car that they see the blood. That's her there. And then headlights appear in the distance, racing toward them at speed, and at long last the woman speaks. "I'm sorry, he's coming." While April and Eddie are able to escape this time, their terrifying adventure is only just beginning. The hitchhiker's injuries prove fatal, and the couple are trapped in the small town of Cold Lake Falls, prime suspects in the eyes of the local police. It turns out this isn't the first victim to die on this stretch of road, and isn't the first time that survivors have seen something that can't be explained. But to get out of town, April and Eddie are going to have to drive down that haunted stretch of road one more time. It sounds really fun, not gonna lie. It does give me the summer vibes. This is like Under the Dust Jacket. I love. It's like a whole map done in like pink. and I just think it's really fun. It's such a fun addition. So I was kind of very sold on this when I first heard about it, but the reviews have been mixed, as I said. So I am intrigued. This is definitely one that could go either way. I'm kind of hoping I love it, because that would be a really nice end to this video if I do actually end up loving it, because I've obviously had like a couple of misses in this video. This is the one I'm gonna go for. It gives me the summer vibes a lot more than this one, I think, and both of them were like easily in my I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it, but I want a win, so I'm gonna go for the one that, even though it's possible I won't like it, I'm kind of hoping I do. So let's find out. Oh sure, now it looks like summer outside when I am back at work. I am decidedly not suitable for camera right now, but I thought I'd give you my first update on Murder Road. Also, it's raining, so that's some nice little reading ambiance for me. And I'm not super far in. I'm like 50 pages so far, which went super fast, chapter 7. It's fine so far, is kind of how I feel. At the moment, I've got no clue who all these people in the end papers are. They are not our main characters. They could be the girl who died. I really don't know. But I've got no idea how this all kind of works. I'm still calling these two Betty and Archie, and poor Veronica. Although this doesn't actually match the girl who dies at the beginning of the book. So I don't know about that. Also, I love the end papers so much on this. But I don't really have a lot of thoughts so far. It's very clear that our main girl, I can't remember their names, April, apparently, has a secret past. She has a difficult childhood, and she has things to hide. They have basically rescued this girl who was stabbed and then were kind of chased down the road by a truck, but she died in the hospital, so now they are being held as essentially witnesses to the murder, but they are clearly suspects, and this is just turning into like a murder investigation, I guess, and that's all that's really happened. I will say, however, why does this keep happening to me? That I keep finding books that have Kyles as characters who are made fun of. It just amuses me a lot. But yeah, that is all I have to report, really. There's not really a lot that's happened. I've not really gotten a lot of characterization, particularly for the guy. But at the moment, it's made very clear that April has secrets, and whether or not it's to do with what are apparently these hitchhiker murders that's happening, I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. Hello, I figured I would update you because I am about halfway through Murder Road now. I am really struggling with the believability of this one, to be honest, as well as it feeling like the first episode of Supernatural. Very much so, only really, really extended. I just don't get why this couple are staying and looking into this mystery. I don't really understand. I know they're saying that the ghost wants them to do it, but it feels a little bit like pulling at straws to me, I have to say. So I don't really get why they're here. It very much feels like if this was a horror movie, they should just get out, really. If things are gonna get worse, I don't really get why they're still here. And it's very slow, I will say. It feels like things are taking quite a long time to happen. And I'm kind of ready for this to be done. I feel like this could have been a lot shorter. So that's how I feel so far. I get it's not dreadful, but I also don't really have a lot of good things to say about it, to be honest. It's just kind of okay, and I feel like it could probably be half a length already. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I am going to finish it. I am intrigued to see where it's going. It does seem to be going down a supernatural bent now, but the horror is very limited, I would say. And I don't even know if the supernatural thing is even real or not at this point, to be honest. Yeah, that's my halfway through update. I don't think I can get on with this girl. Rude. Meanwhile, this guy, he can stay. Hello, it is the end of my Summerween video. I finished Murder Road like an hour or so ago. This took me about 3 days to read. I feel like normally a thriller I can read in a night, but this was kind of a slog. I weirdly, for a thriller, found it to be a little bit slow paced, and I think that's because not a lot was happening and it just took ages for it felt like anything consequential to happen. Overall, I'm gonna have to agree with Gavin for this one. I was not a fan. There were definitely like moments of intrigue. I wasn't gonna DNF it because I really genuinely wanted to know where it was going. It just, unfortunately for me at least, I don't think it went anywhere good. It felt really lackluster. It felt like it was almost paint by numbers at times of what was happening. And I'll be honest, I did not understand April's reasoning for quite a bit of the book for why she was doing specific things, putting herself in apparently needless danger. It made a little bit more sense at the end as to why the two of them felt drawn to staying at this place and investigating these murders and the ghost of the lost girl, who is this very mean lady here. It did kind of make sense, but it also felt kind of far-fetched, I've got to say, and I also felt the conclusion was really anticlimactic. Overall, I wasn't a fan. I didn't really enjoy, I want to say, any of the characters. I think the only character I actually liked was Rose, who was the owner of the B&B. She had a genuinely interesting and sympathetic backstory, and I liked that she had all this chutzpah and kind of gave no shit. I really liked her, but I could care less for these two. I really didn't like April. She was also giving me unreliable narrator for a lot of the book, but I just didn't really like her as a character all that much. I sympathise with her backstory, but the way she was talking about her dark past made it sound like it was going to be so much worse than it really was. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Maybe because this is set in the 90s, I don't know. It felt like a big deal that about the secret she was keeping. And then it all came out and it wasn't really that big of a deal. I thought, same for Eddie, kind of guessed what dark secret he was hiding, and he was just generally always the nice guy in this. I liked him, I guess. It truly kind of was giving the Archie and Betty vibes a little bit, not gonna lie. The other two characters, I guess, that are of interest other than Rose, I guess, are the Snell sisters, who is these two teenage girls that are obsessed with conspiracy theories and have been investigating these murders for ages, doing various illegal things to get information that they shouldn't really have. I didn't really like them, I've got to say. They felt very cliche, but I will say they gave me vibes of the Frog Brothers from The Lost Boys, which was kind of funny. And I feel that goofiness that they had, I guess, kind of fit with the tone of the book and how this never really felt like a serious book to me. I never really felt like a sense of dread that much about the ghost and what she was doing. I guess I didn't mind what the overall reveal was as to why the murders were happening, but again, I just didn't think it was particularly interesting. So yeah, overall, I think I'm giving this one maybe a 2.75. Like Slewfoot, like, I read it. I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts to say about it that are positive. Would I read from this author again? Probably not. I didn't really like the writing that much. I have heard people say her other books are better, so maybe I would give one of the others a try, but I think only if the premise of the book really interests me. As far as a ghost story goes, it wasn't amazing, it wasn't that scary. This could have easily been a quarter of the length, I feel like. It really did just feel like I was watching the first episode of Supernatural, which is not usually a bad thing, but they did it better. It does mean though that I am at the end of this video. I'm sad only because I freaking love the design of this book. but I am gonna have to get rid of it. Like, I'm never gonna read it again. I don't care for it. This actually has like quite a few good reviews online, so I do have hope that this will work for someone out there, but it just wasn't for me, sadly. It almost felt like the whole reason why this was set in the 90s was either like a nostalgia thing, which it didn't really go into that much, or just to kind of excuse how untechnological and inept the murder investigation had been up until now. That was really the only reason why it felt like it was set in the 90s, was to just kind of give the plot more of a purpose as to why this hadn't been resolved, and why like things that happened in the past hadn't been like done better or had been found out in advance. But yeah, that is my thoughts on Murder Road. A little bit of a naff end, I guess, to the Summerween video. I didn't really have a lot of good luck in this video, to be honest. I feel like I read all 5 of my books. I didn't DNF any of them, but I feel like I should have DNF'd at least 2 of them. And yeah, I wasn't crazy about most of these. In fact, I think I am not keeping a single one apart from the manga, and the manga was the one I rated the highest. I gave this a 4.5. I'm trashing everything else. I really just didn't have a good time with these books, and I'm really sad about it because I feel like I love reading like spooky books and stuff, and unfortunately the odds were not in my favor this Summerween for me to read good spooky books. But we'll do the roundup for it now, just to go over it again. So I did start the video reading The Hotel by Daisy Johnson, which I think this was for the prompt of reading a book with a sky on the cover. I can't remember what prompt additionally I had for this. I should really go and check. Hang on. Okay, yeah, so this was to read a book with a sky in the cover because I had 2 skies, and I ended up having the spinner wheel pick this book for me from my list of books. This was definitely not one of the worst books in this video. This is one that I do not regret reading. I thought there was definitely some interesting things in here. Some of the stories were actually kind of decent, but overall, as a package, I just don't think it's going to be one I ever reach for again. I am sad because of the 3 Daisy Johnson books I've read. I've loved one so much, and the other 2 I read by her just haven't worked for me. She's such a good writer, and I just want her books to work for me. But at the moment, it's only Sisters, apparently. But yeah, so this was I gave this a 3.25 overall, which I think is about right. It just didn't leave a big impression. I would maybe push to a 3.5, but yeah, not the best one. Then I read Slewfoot by Brong, which has been a really anticipated book for me. I really thought this was going to be totally up my alley. I ended up reading this for just the read a horror or thriller book prompt from Summerween, and I had to read a book of historical element. This is set in like the 1500s in colonial New England, so it definitely fit the bill. Love the art in this, but this just didn't really work for me, unfortunately. I gave this the same rating as the one I just read, 2.75. I just had too many issues with it, and I didn't connect to it, and I didn't feel what I wanted to feel from it, I suppose. Again, I wouldn't say this is a bad book. I think this is definitely better than Murder Road, to be honest, but it didn't work for me. Then I think I read The Summer Hikaru Died next, because I just wanted to read something that I knew I would enjoy, which I knew I would enjoy. This was obviously with a prompt of to read a manga, novella, or an audiobook, but I can't actually remember what prompt I got for this one to read it, to be honest. This prompt apparently was what I got to read this one. Yeah, this was the only one I really enjoyed in this video. I do love this series. It's still one of my favorite horror series right now. Then I read The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Wasn't expecting this to be the best thing ever because I always feel like I have that kind of history with thrillers. I enjoy them whilst I'm reading them, and then they're kind of forgettable. But I was anticipating this one, and I do still have another Lucy Foley book to read, and I think I will read it. It was just fine. It was interesting enough, but not anything that's gonna like be memorable for me, unfortunately. I read this for reading a book in the dark. I only read it in the evening, and the spinner wheel also chose this one for me. I gave this a 3.75, so this is like the next best book in this video after The Summer Hikaru Died. It was fine. And then finally, I obviously read Murder Road, which was the last one, also gave us a 2.75. This was to the prompt of to read a book I've owned for more than a year, and also a book that I felt like I would probably want to unhaul. And that prediction came true. So let's gather all these. We have 4 trashes for this video and 1 treasure. So that is 4 books that, you know, at least I've read them. That is them going out of my library. Hopefully I will get much better things when I am next doing my horror books, which will likely be in October because Halloween season. That is it for this episode of Treasure or Trash. That brings my TBR down to this number. And what you haven't seen whilst I've been doing this video is I've actually also been reading a whole bunch of other books. Some for projects, some just because I happen to have a lot of spare time to listen to audiobooks. So I was purposely reading a lot of books on my TBR. So this number is not technically accurate. I'm actually lower than that now. So we're actually going into the next episode of Treasure or Trash with a decent chunk taken out of it, which I'm happy to say. You're finally seeing a reduction in my TBR. And I will also say that the next episode of Treasure or Trash is probably going to be the longest one. I'm excited about what I'm going to do for this video, and my aim is to actually read about 10 or so books in that video. I'm really looking in to getting this done. I'm probably going to be doing this as like most of the month is going to be purely treasure or trash books. So you won't see a video on my channel this month for August TBR because my August TBR mostly I have like 1 or 2 other books, like my book club book and like a new release that I really want to get to, but mostly it's all going to be treasure or trash. And I'm really excited to really just not have other books distracting me from locking in on my physical TBR. So that is what's going to happen in the next episode. It's going to have lots of books. I'm really excited for it. There's lots of books that I'm dying to get to on my TBR, and hopefully I will get to some of them next episode. But that is it for this episode. However, I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, stay safe, stay cozy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!